Welcome to the deep dive. We cut straight to the heart of fascinating ideas, basically giving you the shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're plunging into something I think we've all felt, that anxious wait for, well, for a big moment, especially when it's as grand as the concept of prophecy. Our core question, that kind of echoes through our source material, it's one we've all probably muttered at some point, are we there yet?
hmm
Our sources today, they really pinpoint that common human experience,
hmm
impatiently awaiting significant moments. And well, as you might imagine, that kind of waiting, it comes with a unique set of pretty profound challenges.
That's absolutely right. Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to unpack exactly why this anticipation can be so difficult, what pitfalls people, well, often encounter along the way, and crucially, how a different perspective, one illustrated by a really powerful ancient parable, can completely reframe this whole experience for us.
Okay, so what our material really seems to zero in on is this widespread eagerness for prophecy fulfillment. It feels like more than just curiosity, doesn't it? There's this undeniable expectation, maybe, a deep hope of seeing these grand moments yourself. Seems very human, almost instinctual, perhaps.
It absolutely is. And, this deep yearning, it brings specific challenges with it. When these hopes aren't met, maybe not in the expected time frame or not in the way people imagine, believers can really feel a waning of enthusiasm.
Mm,
And beyond that internal struggle, there's also the external pressure,
Hmm.
the need to overcome doubters and derision of non-believers.
Right, when things don't line up as expected.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is that our material digs deeper into why this need for external evidence or proof even exists. Is it mainly to satisfy unspoken doubts within, to quiet our own questions? Or is it more because we need something with which to show those doubters, to validate our beliefs to others? The force suggests it could really be both. It highlights this complex inner and outer dynamic.
I can definitely see that dual pressure. And our material uses such a vivid analogy for this experience, comparing many believers to children on a long journey who just, well, can't stop asking, are we there yet? It perfectly captures that impatient, destination-focused mindset, doesn't it?
It truly does. It's a great image. And it forces us to ask, what exactly are these children missing when they're so fixed on the destination? Our source explains two critical paths these children might take. Some, it says, become exhausted from anticipation and fall asleep, just expecting to be woken up when they arrive.
Okay.
But the critical warning here is, well, it's profound. If we get too focused on when fulfillment will happen, we become exactly like these children. We learn nothing from the passing scenes.
Mhm.
And worse, we could get tired of waiting and no longer pay attention or no longer believe in prophecy.
Wow.
And this leads to being like those sleeping children, but with a much starker consequence. The sleeper will not be woken when Earth arrives at the destination.
That really hits home, yeah. The idea of missing the whole point, missing the destination because you basically fell asleep on the journey. That's powerful, but our material doesn't just leave us there in that negative space. It offers a contrast, a much more positive view. Only a few children recognize that the journey is also part of the trip, during which they get to observe and learn much from the passing scenes. That's a fundamental shift in focus, isn't it?
It absolutely is. This is really a crucial point. It emphasizes that the road to the fulfillment of prophecy is a long journey,
Yeah.
and it's full of changing scenes and experiencing. And here's the key insight. Each scene contains many learning opportunities. Opportunities to prepare us for when we finally arrive at the destination, the fulfillment time.
Yeah.
So the journey itself isn't just, a delay. It's the prep work. It's the crucible where we're meant to grow.
That makes a lot of sense. And to really bring this idea home, our material points to a timeless story, the parable of the 10 virgins from Matthew 25. It sounds like a perfect illustration for what we're talking about, this idea of readiness and, well, the journey itself.
It is indeed a very apt illustration. The parable, as it's recounted in our source, describes 10 young women. They're waiting for a bridegroom's arrival at night. 5 were, let's say, well prepared. Their jars were filled with oil, ready for him. But 5 others were not prepared. They did not have enough oil.
Yeah.
So they left to get some refill.
Okay, so half were ready, half weren't?
Exactly. And the bridegroom arrived while the negligent 5 had left.
Mm.
So the 5 prepared women, they were invited in and left with the bridal party.
Uh-huh.
But those who were unprepared, they were left behind and they could not join the party.
Mm.
It's a simple story on the surface, but it has a profound depth.
And Our material unpacks some really specific interpretations of this parable, which is interesting. The bridegroom, it explains, represents the bringer of truth, or maybe the truth that is brought to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And the lamp with oil, that's interpreted as the living intuition that is required to see the bridegroom truth.
Mm-hmm. Living intuition.
Yeah. And here's where it gets really pointed. The 5 women who left to refill their lamp, they represent human beings who, even though they're expecting fulfillment, they yearn for a change, they are not keeping their intuition fully alive and burning.
Right.
They're depicted as seeking in the wrong direction.
Mm.
And the example given is pursuing teachings that place man at the center and not the will of the Creator.
And that brings up a really crucial question for us, doesn't it?
Right.
What's the real danger if we're putting all that effort into seeking, but we're fundamentally looking in the wrong place?
Right. Misdirected effort.
Exactly. The parable, through this lens, this interpretation, provides a stark warning. It indicates that all human beings will eventually recognize the futility of our wrong ways and wrong seeking and try to backpedal. But the critical message is, by then it would be too late. Our material even notes that the Grail message also confirms this interpretation, which really highlights the irreversible nature of missing that moment, missing it because you were misdirected.
Wow. Too late. That's sobering. So what does this all distill down to for us, for the listeners? Our material points out 3 primary lessons or warnings from this parable, and they seem incredibly relevant to our deep dive here. First, we must first prepare ourselves inwardly and remain always prepared while we wait for the fulfillment of prophecy. It's an internal job, first and foremost.
Right. Constant readiness.
Second, we cannot afford to wait until the fulfillment of prophecy is near to prepare ourselves. You can't cram for this test, basically.
No last-minute prep possible, it seems.
And third, it is our duty and responsibility to always keep the flame alive in us while we're waiting, understanding that fulfillment that will come in His own time and according to the will of the Creator. That last point feels crucial. It kind of removes the burden of predicting time frames, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And shifts the focus entirely onto inner work.
Precisely. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the ultimate takeaway point here is, well, it's truly profound. We must come to the fulfillment changed and not to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating is how this completely flips the script. It shifts the focus from when something happens to who you become in the waiting. It's about personal transformation, not just sitting back and watching the clock.
Yeah, that reframes everything. This deep dive has really shown us, I think, that awaiting prophecy isn't just about anticipating an event. It's not just asking, are we there yet? It's about engaging with the transformative journey leading up to it, learning from every scene that passes by, and fundamentally changing ourselves in the process.
Exactly. So maybe a thought to leave you with is this. Consider what it truly means to keep the flame alive within you, not just for some, distant future moment, but for the present journey itself. Right now, if the destination, the fulfillment, truly requires you to be changed, what steps can you take now to cultivate that inner readiness?
That's a great question to ponder. For a better understanding of prophecy and its fulfillment, our source does invite you to examine In the Light of Truth, also known as the Grail Message, by Abdrushan. We certainly hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about. Until next time.